I have never job hunted. Never in my life. I was so fortunate that I was, the day I finished, the next day I started my internship at Union Trust Bank. When I was young, I thought I wanted to become a policeman. Every conversation I have with people, I look at what's the opportunity, what's the business angle, and what's the opportunity. My conversations will be casual, but in it, I'm looking at how can I turn this conversation to a business-like. Pitch and funding requirements are not the problem. People will look at it differently, but that's not the issue. You have to be trained in what you are doing. You have to know the ins and outs of what you're doing. Otherwise, you will end up like me. It will be an experience. For me, I take it as an experience. Some people will take it as a failure, but for me, it's an experience. It's not a failure.
This is the JAB Show, and it's your life by design. Every young entrepreneur you meet around the country are complaining about the problem of access to funding. And if you look at the ecosystem around the country, there are pitch nights and pitch competitions, dealing with pitch decks and trainings. That's all you have. But my guest on today's show is saying that's the wrong conversation we're supposed to be having. And he should know. Because he got all the funding he needed. He walked out confidently. And he still failed. Today, you will find out why. My guest today is Mustapha Janga, Chief Commercial Officer for Smart Systems Sierra Leone Limited, and one of Sierra Leone's most experienced commercial operators. For over 18 years, he's worked across UBA Sierra Leone and Access Bank, and also worked with AFCOM, but now heads one of the country's most active fintech organizations. He's grown customer bases from 0 to hundreds in months and have closed multi-million-dollar deals. He's built the kind of commercial systems that most organizations only know they need when it's too late. Before all the senior titles and before all the deal rooms, Mustapha entered poultry farming. He secured funding from a convincing pitch competition. He had no operational knowledge and he lost it all. He documented it, and that failure became the foundation of everything he now believes about what African startups actually need. Welcome to the JAB podcast, Mr. Mustapha Janga.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. I don't know whether this show is supposed to raise up your profile or it's supposed to talk about, the bitterness of failure. But let's see. You spent nearly 2 decades in the commercial engine room in Sierra Leone, yes. The financial sector.
Yes.
But that career didn't start in the boardroom. Walk us back to the beginning. When did it all started? So let's talk about your first job. So primary school.
Yeah.
Primary school.
Yes.
What primary school did you attend? If you could still remember.
Yes, I attended UMC primary school at Brookfields. But from there, I attended St. Michael's at Kisi. From there, I went to Government Local Secondary School. I went to Frabi College and graduated.
What did you read at Frabi College?
Accounting with honors.
When you did accounting?
Yep.
How did you end up being a commercial operator or a salesperson?
It's a funny story. Actually, when I finished my studies, I have never job hunted. Never in my life. I was so fortunate that I was, the day I finished, the next day I started my internship at Union Trust Bank. From Union Trust Bank, they employed me at Capital Discounters as an investment and settlement officer. So basically, that's how the trajectory goes. I'll be in one job and then they'll push me from that job and I go to another job and they push me from another job and up to...
You mean you never wrote any application for any job in your life?
Never.
That means you're unique because, and it's funny because young people are now watching this and they say, okay, what's wrong with me? Because some of them will tell you 30 applications and stuff. Maybe at that point in time, you didn't have much more people looking for jobs.
We have. There were a lot of job seekers. Though, I would say, I thank God. It's a blessing and what I do because I put my all in everything that I do. Mm-hmm. So the way I'll interact with some of these possible business owners or entrepreneurs, they'll see something that they were needed in their organization. So it was easy for them to just roll it up for me and say, hey, are you interested in a job position? And that's it.
So you mean you had to do a lot more with your personality, how you come across with people?
I believe so.
Now, when people used to ask you, obviously they ask us this question all the time, when you grow up, what would you like to be? What was the question? You know, how did you answer that question as far as you could remember?
When I was young, I thought I wanted to become a policeman.
What?
Just a policeman. I like order. I like
even
at this point in time when I drive, I see people driving on the opposite end. It beats me every time up till today. I just like order. I like people doing the right thing. That's just it.
Okay. Then you walked through that. You outgrew that. What was the next thing you wanted to be in life?
So it's just when I thought I would become an investment guru, because what I studied was accounting, and then my first job was investment. I went for a lot of courses, and I really know how to turn 2 to 4. Like people will say, turn 2 to 4. So, and
it's not forging figures.
Nah,
but when you say you really know how to, when you say you need how to turn 2, that's a capability, and we could talk about that. So, what does it take to turn 2 to 4?
Every conversation I have with people, I look at what's the opportunity, what's the business angle, and what's the opportunity. That's how I treat conversations. My conversations will be casual, but in it, I'm looking at how can I turn this conversation to a business like.
And obviously, if you're talking about business, you grow in resources.
Sure.
You're taking a fund of $1,000. You want to say, how do I turn it to $4,000?
Exactly.
By trading, by exchanging service, exchanging value.
Yes. So when I went to FI Bank, I worked as investment officer at FI Bank. I was there when Access Bank poached me. I was doing very good at Access Bank as investment manager. And then my former managing director, Tunde Balego, God bless his soul, one day looked at me and said, "You bluff too much. I think you should go to marketing so that you show me what you can do." And that's how.
Because marketing is much more harder.
Yes.
Than
that's what he thought. And then that was how I went to become a marketer. And from that day up to now, I can sell anything.
You can sell anything?
Anything.
And you can sell Sierra Leone. If you give Sierra Leone for sale, you will sell Sierra Leone. Emma Simon say, will you sell this country?
My friend told me yesterday when we were discussing, he's in America right now. He said they were discussing about me. And one of them said, Jangah, even if you give him a dead body to sell, he will sell the dead body to you and you buy it. And then he will come back to you and tell you that body that I sold to you is dead, but I'll bring the one that is alive. He's capable of doing that.
Now, obviously, there's a problem that salespeople are always, the thing people have with salespeople is that they lack integrity because they just want to sell. And so where do you draw the line between that and doing with integrity?
These are the things I always do when I sell. Maybe that's why I'm different. One, I don't try to give you an elephant. I can't sell an elephant to you when I know that I have a rat. What I tell you is I'll look for your pinpoint and then make you understand why you need this. So that's I don't, and I'm as humble enough to tell you that I made a mistake. This is the mistake. Let's correct it. I'm humble as that.
Now let's go back between the banking and the tellers and the billions of leons that you actually locked in deposits. When did the poultry story came in? In which bank?
So it was at it was when I left Access Bank. I worked as general manager for Sign Africa.
It was UBA.
Yes. No, UBA is after the
poultry. Okay, after the poultry.
Yes, I worked as general manager at Sign Africa. I was the general manager at Sign Africa, and then my father-in-law, who also has passed away, is a veterinarian. So most of the time I go to his house to visit him. We discuss about poultry. And like I tell you, every time I discuss with people, I look at the business angle. So discussing, I started writing something on poultry. how poultry is done and stuff like that. And then fortunately, IFC had a training of 2 weeks or 6 weeks training on the same pitch deck and stuff like that. And I came second. After the poultry competition, I came second. The person that came first was Agatha Johnson, who also has passed away. And she was doing training of trainers and stuff like that. And then I came second, and I was funded with a lot of money.
How much was the funds?
$325,000.
$325,000. That was a lot of money.
2011.
Wow,
Yes.
that makes it even crazier because
Yes. So when I always say that pitch and funding requirements are not the problem, people will look at it differently, but that's not the issue. You have to be trained in what you are doing. You have to know the ins and outs of what you're doing. Otherwise, you will end up like me. It will be an experience. For me, I take it as an experience. Some people will take it as a failure, but for me, it's an experience. It's not a failure.
And that's why you're not ashamed to tell the story.
Perfectly.
And as somebody was telling me the other day that we have to make failure a failing a normal story, because the experience you build out of this is what prepares you for the next journey.
Yes. I always say that your business fails. It's an experience, a very, very costly experience, but it helps you for the next phase of your life. It fails because of extraneous factors. The Ebola was one of the reasons. 2, like you've rightly put it, I was pitch master, but not.
And you're still a pitch master, but not what? Continue. But not
a business builder.
Okay, so let's go. Take us through $350,000 in the bank.
Yes.
Take us through what happened next.
$350,000 $325,000 in the bank. We built the third largest poultry farm in Sierra Leone.
And you said that was equity.
Yes, that's what's there. It was equity, 70-30. I did 30%.
You had 30%
of that amount. And then we built the poultry. It ran for 3 years. And during the Ebola, we couldn't continue again. I can say it's not, the Ebola is part of the issues, but my inexperience was mostly part of it. How to manage people, how to manage resources, how to look at the both ends of every business that bleeds. That's your revenue. Where does your revenue comes from? How do you close the tap on your revenue that comes in, and your cost? How do you manage cost for businesses? Those things were they were novelties to me at that point in time. I don't know them. So I failed because I didn't go through the right training and knows the ins and outs of running a poultry before investing into a poultry.
And there's nothing more painful to see than to watch a business die in your hands.
That was a very, very serious setback. And but I bounced back.
Because were you married at that point in time?
Oh yeah. I'm married for like 18 years right now.
You've been married for 18 years?
18 years, 2008. And that's when I met my...
Okay. So that's 11 years, very beautiful. So that's 3 years. No, I'm saying that's 3 years. Because you said 2000 and what? 2008. So yes. 3 years after, then you had this 2011, then you won this competition.
And ran it for 3 years.
How much of this did Pat knew that you were going through? Because her father was part of this process.
Yes. My wife is a very strong believer of my dreams. She's a very strong believer of my dreams. The most important thing, she will always ask, what's the end goal? How do you intend of reaching the end goal? If I can answer those questions, she's ready to back me up, like the way I back her up in anything that she's doing.
So now this business is bleeding. Business is bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
You come home and she would see.
Yes, she sees it. She'll see it clearly.
And so how did you get to the point to now know? you have to pull the plug. This is not going to work.
When we started seeing that the revenue that comes in cannot sustain the normal operations of the business, we have to pull the plug because we'll continue to bleed. Because now my personal resources is being affected, is being attacked, because I have to put my personal resources in the business to sustain it, because I believe that I should succeed. So I started bleeding, and we reached a point we had to pull the plug. And it was one of the saddest decisions. Yeah, it was seriously affecting even my entire being. Like, you failed. What's wrong?
And what was your answer to yourself to that?
Like I always do, I dust myself up. I always dust myself up. I looked at it. I said, okay, now, if you keep crying of your failure, you will still be in your failed position. Mm-hmm. Why don't you think about what went wrong? And then that's the time I started documenting the issues that happened. 1, human resource management. 2, lack of experience in running the business on my. 3, monitoring of a fast-moving commodity. Fast-moving commodities are commodities you have to marry to. You marry to them. You should be with them, in them, and around them. That's how you have to do it.
You cannot do it from a distance.
No. You will feel like nada. You will fail. Anytime you put your hands into fast-moving goods, you should marry them. You should be their girlfriend or the boyfriend. You should stay in the business at all times. Otherwise, you will fail in this our society.
Now, let's pause. You said you had to pick yourself up again, yes. And you had to dust yourself up.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you would say, I'm ready to fight back?
About 6 months. It was 6 months. It was November that I stopped the business, and through to April, I was really down. And after that, I had to go back to working for people. That's the breaking point.
And you said you always so you had to go back to working for
people. I hate working for people. I hate working for
Why?
people. Because you're making a living. Anybody that is working for somebody is making a living. It's not a fortune. You want to make a fortune, do a business.
Or you work in the organization and get so big that you become part of the ownership of the organization.
Perfect. Yes. That's the other way around. Like what happened with me in Smart Systems.
Smart Systems.
Yes. Now, to God be the glory.
You worked your way up to get to the point where you could be a shareholder in a business.
Yes, in the business. But apart from that, I did not see myself working for people for long.
Let's go back a little on the practicalities of. Let's go back to the practicalities of how do you close a business down? What was the first thing you did? What was the second thing you did? You wrote a letter to everybody. What did you do?
No, the first thing I did is to take inventory of what's available. Who are my suppliers, my debtors? Who are my creditors? And then work everything backward to see how much I'm in terms of debt and stuff like that. After that, we wrote all of them, informing them that we're closing the business. But it was easy at that time because the Ebola was there. So
you just largely you said Ebola to say we're closing.
Because of the Ebola, we are closing down, and then we try to pay down our debtors, our creditors, and then run after our debtors to pay us back. And some didn't pay. They took
Ebola. They talked about Ebola
as the excuse, and that's it. Yeah. So we closed down, and then we have to come back again and start from scratch. What do I do next? And
you said that's when you had to go back to.
I went to UBA. I started UBA as a banking officer, and as banking officer, you in UBA, whether you're a banking officer or you're an ET, executive trainee, you go out to find customers.
And you are not even executive. Who's higher in rank? The banking officer is higher. Okay, fine. Okay. If so, even banking officer, you have to go out.
You have to go out and find them customers. And I started with zero. That's zero balance
Zero
sheet.
clients.
Clients, zero balance sheet. And my former boss would usually jokes with me that I'm bringing in revenue that is GST. The revenue that I'm making is GST. So he knows that I'm not making anything at that.
Why is it? Why does they call it GST?
Because he said, because when the more customers you come with, the more revenue you make. So if the revenue is not enough to even pay your salary, they consider it GST. So for the first 3 months, it was brutal. It was brutal. But I learned from the best. What I did is that I looked at the top 5 players in the corporate banking world in UBA.
The department.
Yes, I looked at them, studied them, went with them on marketing on 2-3 occasions to know how they do their things. And after that, within the next 3 months to 6 months, I became the top 6 performers in the bank. Why? Because like I said, I put my all in all to what I do. I put my all in all to what I did. Yeah.
And how high did you rise up in the bank? What was your achievement?
It was just 1 year, 6 months I spent at
UBA.
And after that, they poached me again as usual.
To AFCOM.
To AFCOM, to become their chief commercial officer. And then, from AFCOM now, we set up Utah, wherein I grew my customer base in the next 6 months to 800 customers plus.
And what were you doing in Utah? Was internet?
Utah is pure internet services. So, like I was saying, because I went through the apprenticeship of AFCOM, it makes it very easy for me to run.
Tell me how. And that's a point I'd like us to dive into a little. And this is about apprenticeship, the power of apprenticeship and the importance of apprenticeship. You wrote a LinkedIn article.
Yes.
Which is what I picked up on. Mm-hmm. And tell me about the power of apprenticeship. And there's a big problem we have with young people. Everybody wants to be a CEO.
Yes.
And I think what I'm going to do a special show all about the pain we're causing ourselves in this country because nobody wants to serve as an apprentice.
Yes.
And you have 15,000 CEOs. If you put together what all of those small businesses are making, they are not up to even $1 million.
They're doing survival.
It's survival entrepreneurship, and so that's something I'm going to beat. Even like people like us, you look at myself. I've spent more than half of my life working for people, building capacity till I could get to the level where I could be made, they would pinch half and say, you have equity in this business. That's what I spent my time doing.
Yeah.
Apprenticeship. What are people losing when they fail to be apprenticed, when they fail to be mentored in a formal environment?
Okay. So I'll take it in this way. Every business has 3 things that people look for. Where is my money coming from? How can I multiply or grow that money? How can I sustain that money? Those things, it's difficult to see in books, but you can see it from your boss. Because now, if I had wanted to become the best poultry person, I should have gone through one of the top 3 guys that I know that were doing poultry, even if it's for 6 months, 1 year, to learn how they do poultry, how they deal with their suppliers, how they deal with the making of their food, how do they manage when there is death in the birds and stuff like that. I would have known all of those things as an apprentice from one of those people. But there was no time for that. I went in without knowing that. So everything was new. Everything was new. And our people that we work with, they always find shortcuts or ways to enhance themselves in the business that they're doing. They don't care whether the business fails or not. But if I had had that experience in managing a business of poultry, I wouldn't have failed. So apprenticeship is the key part of most of the young entrepreneurs that are coming up. They should learn from someone that has done the job rather than just taking the beat I'm a head of graphic designer, CEO of this, because they don't have no training. So what they do is survival. You as the CEO, you're the one that does marketing. You're the one that does accounting. You're the one that does everything in the business. You do all of them together. There is no succession plan. There is nothing. So if you fail today or if you're sick today, the business stops running. Because even the payment that they do, the payment does, the accountant that is there is just to detail them to go and collect checks and bring checks. So we have to go through mentor. I don't want to call it mentorship, because mentorship is from afar. I'm saying that
apprenticeships. Apprenticeship is you really working in an organization.
Exactly. If you want to set up a microfinance company, work with someone that is doing microfinance business. You can even start from the guys that do the market due collection. Osusu. You can start with them to know how the game works. Otherwise, you fail. That's why you see a lot of CEOs today and tomorrow they are employees somewhere else, because they cannot sustain the position. They cannot sustain the position.
Tough story. But this is something, like I said, we would hit again and again. I had a guest, David Pakima, who's made a strong impact and imprint in this nation, and talked about how he spent 10 years deliberately, intentional, working at Airtel and Zain before moving to Standard Chartered Bank. 10 years. And, in a period of, 6 years, was able to raise funding in banks locally, where people say bank don't give loans to people, but multi-million dollars loans that he raised. Banks only give loans to, non-Sierra Leoneans, the Lebanese, the foreign businesses, that's who they give. No, there is something Sierra Leonean businesses do not live up to, which limits our capability to access funding, which is where the apprenticeship of processed, disciplined management of business is so important. Stop calling yourself a CEO. And, you will say, Joe Abbas, you shouldn't be saying that because you should encourage young people. You don't know enough to start something by yourself. You don't know. If you haven't worked, 90% of us, you have to work for somebody who has a payroll, who has cost to manage, who builds people. You have to learn how to do this. 90% of us have to work under this environment where you would learn how to do this before you can step out. Anything other than that, you're punishing yourself unnecessarily. And so take that as my advice. Again, if it's one of the things I would leave as advice, 20 years from now, I'll be 80. God willing. And so one of the things I would leave over and over again, like you're saying, is apprenticeship. It's apprenticeship. We work out too early. We want to be our bosses overnight. We want to lead ourselves overnight. It ain't working. It will not work. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. So you said, if you distill what you've learned into four rules: build structure before growth.
Yes.
Don't expand what you can't control.
Yes.
Track everything.
Yes.
Fix operations before chasing capital.
Yes.
Keep this in mind as we go into the break. If you miss being apprenticed, if you miss working under the person, working with the person who's achieved what you're trying to achieve in a disciplined, focused environment, you're missing a lot in your life. Let's go for this break. We'll come back and join our guest, Mustapha Janga.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.
Most business owners then just they guess waiting at the problem where them business get. Some can say, well, na marketing problem. But in staff then say, no, na the sales. Now we have a problem with. And the partner then at the business, na cash flow problem now then get. Everybody they guess, nobody know waiting they do the business. That is why we built one simple tool at the Startup Body Shop. You answer a few questions and the system analyzes your business and it shows you exactly what's the problem. Not vibes, not guessing, real business diagnostics. Because if you treat the wrong problem, you're just wasting your time, you're wasting money, and you're wasting energy. This tool shows you exactly what's blocking your business, what to fix first, and where to focus on if you want to see results. So stop guessing, diagnose your business today. Check the link in the description.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.
Welcome back. Mustapha, you said you distilled in this article that you had on LinkedIn, you distilled what you learned into 4 rules. So the first one was you have to build structure before growth.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay. I would like to do an analogy for that. For every house that you build, you first of all have to do a good foundation. Because of the house that you want to put, your foundation could be deeper, while some will be shallow. Someone that wants to put a zinc house will have a shallow foundation, and someone that wants to put a skyscraper will have a deeper foundation. So come back to yourself. Putting structures will have to take into consideration clear goals, clear responsibilities, clear targets in terms of KPIs, and the monitoring tool that speaks to them to know how far they've gone and what's available, and the regular feedbacks. Those are the things that create a structure that helps people to align with your goal. That's for the people.
That's for the people side. So as a businessman,
yeah.
Again, just again, if I'm building up, if I'm setting up my business,
Yeah.
just re-echo again, because when you started, I thought you were talking about the individual preparing themselves for life. Let's talk about the entrepreneur.
Okay. So now,
the people side of it.
To build the structure, structure, you have the people structure. You have the business structure, which deals with how do you want to run the business, like the workflow and stuff like that. So the people's structure that I think that most of us have to imbibe is how do you create an environment where everybody knows what he or she is supposed to do. Yeah.
So job descriptions.
Job description is fine.
KPIs.
The KPIs and the duties and responsibilities that shows exactly that today or for your what you're supposed to do is X, Y, Z. This you should do at this point. This you should do at this point, and this you should do at this point. It helps each and every individual to know exactly what they are in there for, and they will not be bordering into people's business and stuff like that. Structure. That's the people side. What else? Yes. What else in terms of structure? In terms of structure, also is the business structures. You should know how you're able to align your business at any point in time. What's next to happen? What next to happen? That's not talking about the strategies. Your business strategy doesn't. No, the strategy is there. I'm talking about how do you structure your business so that the operations person has to do one thing, and at that point, the marketer knows that this is my queue. Okay. It's a structure put in place so that everybody, like I said, everybody should be in the position to know what they're doing and how it's been done. I'm just imagining in my mind when I'm talking about strategy, I'm thinking of now just crazy in my mind. This is the dream I have. This is the goal I have. Yeah. This is the kind of business I want to set up. These are the kind of things I want to do. Yeah. Who are the kind of people I would need? Exactly. Even just an organogram, even if it's 3 people. But your ability to say, sometimes you're not even people, it's just roles and functions. Most of the times it's roles and functions. Roles and functions. Because when you put people, then... Yeah. So you just say, okay, to be able to achieve this, it's this kind of roles and functions I would need to execute this. Exactly. And then you define what they'll be doing in each of those roles. How would you measure that they're achieving their goals? And you're saying, so those structures have to be in place before you even talk about growth. Yes. Because if they don't have those structures in place, you can grow, but it's a bubble. It's a bubble. You can grow, but it's a bubble because the capacity is not there to manage and sustain that growth. You just add in confusion. Don't expand what you can't control. Exactly. You don't expand what you can control. Now, let's say you have people that you started a business with, and then you're doing fine in this one room apartment, and then you say, "Oh, let me expand to Bo, Kenema, and McKinney." Who are the people to run Bo, Kenema, and McKinney? Wherein even the ones that you have there, you are micromanaging them to do the work that you're succeeding in. So if you expand there, who are you going to send there?
I met a young man 2 weeks ago, and he was all over himself to say they were doing some stuff on some technology stuff, and then they come up with an idea. They want to move into solar.
Fine.
Then I said, okay. I asked a couple of questions. I asked a couple of series of questions that I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And they were telling me, because the questions I asked got them to pause.
Of course.
The divided mind that they're going to have as a result of this. They don't know enough about this business, like you're going into poultry.
Exactly.
And this business was already doing fantastically well.
Yes.
And now they want to take their attention off this business where they should not be saying, how do we expand? How do we enlarge this business and just grow with this? But now they are adding an adjacent product to this. And I saw no sense in what they're doing. And like somebody says, you're robbing your wife to go spend on a girlfriend. I'm serious. This one is now, I'm seeing you're robbing your wife to go spend on a girlfriend, because this business is already doing very well. Go deep dive on this. Double down on this business to make sure it's expanded. So he came back to me and says, so it's just like the example you're making now. Don't expand what you can't control.
What you can't control, don't expand it. Because if you expand it, you surely fail. You surely get your fingers burnt. That's why you see businesses venturing into another country, and then after 1-2 months, they crash and they come back again and start working on it.
That was a very strong point. So the guy was telling me they did not go for this other opportunity that they've been talking about, and how blessed they were that they heeded my advice that I gave them to not do this. So I'll take that point. Now, track everything. Tell me about track everything.
So for me, I think you cannot be in all places at the same time. So you fix structures again in place. Now, let's say for your revenue and stuff like that. Now, bless AI and other things, you can build a revenue tracking system that you can be in London, in wherever you are. You can track what's going on a regular basis. Yeah. You talk about operations. Most of the operations right now, you can digitize most of the operations. I'm talking about my business and that. Some businesses you can't. But you should first of all be, you track, even if you can't, but you should have a daily or weekly or bi-weekly. You should have a schedule in which you track your revenue, you track your operation, you track your customers. Because at times I'll give you this example. At times my boss will just come into the room and said, Jangah, how many customers that we don't get per well body? Do you understand? So at that point, if I'll just say we have 8,324. And then he will look at me and say, okay. Why? Because I'm tracking it. I'm not.
How often do you track? And how often you track
I
daily?
have a daily tracker for all of my funds, all of my revenues, all of my that deals with the product. You have a dashboard. I have a dashboard that I'm working with right now, because I know that's the one point that's caused me to fail in my poultry. So I don't joke with that. I don't joke with my revenue movement, and I don't joke with my cost movement. People always say that in the office, that they can't go meet Mr. Janga back again. You can't go pen by your paper. Because
they do pen.
I would go, no. Change this, make this. Why? Because I see it. That those are the things that if you control your revenue and your cost, you will succeed.
You have to track everything.
Track everything. That I will tell you. In the grand scheme of things, you delegate, because people have learned, they've understood what your goal is, and they are people of integrity and responsibility. So they can do it at that point in time. But yet still, you should have a bird's eye view of what's going on in your business. Most of our businesses are not that too big for you not to know what's going on. If you're talking about bigger businesses, multinational businesses, yes, people will manage things. That's why they are.
I agree with you, because at the lower level, you should be able to track everything.
Perfect.
So somebody has a small business and you have 5 major costs that you say, okay, recurring costs. I'm talking about those that happen all the time. So it's fuel for generator, it's EDSA, it's for stationery, it's for toiletries, it's for whatever. And by the time you put all of those together, you're talking about if you don't watch those costs, and because they are the recurrent one, and it's so they drive the most cost. So your ability to track, what I've seen people do, is to have a schedule for all of them.
Yes.
I buy EDSA. Which day did I buy? How many hours did it run? So over time, you could track how long it takes for a 200 unit EDSA to be consumed. So that if somebody comes to you next week and now say, you bought 2,000 Leones EDSA that used to last for 2 weeks and now lasted for only 3 days, the alarm goes off instantly because you're tracking.
Of course.
You can be able to say, okay, what happened? Then you now begin to check. Did we actually buy that much? Did we upload that much into the EDSA? Then, but if you're not tracking, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. And those little costs, you see them as little costs. Those are the things that kills.
They add up.
It add up.
So somebody has a generator for fuel generator, buy fuel for generator. It's the ability to track. When did we buy? How many hours? Generator comes on. They clock the time, generator goes off, they clock the time. So at the end of the day, you see how many hours the generator ran for. So that every liter of fuel you bought, you would want to see how long they lasted for.
Perfect.
You say track everything.
Track everything.
Isn't that a headache?
It is, but it's worth it. Because your eventual goal is to grow. And if you don't track, and you say, this is too much headache, then you fail. You have to track them at the initial stage. You have to, definitely. Some people will say no, but I will say yes, because I didn't track most of my cost and I failed. Now I'm tracking my cost and I'm succeeding.
Fix operations before chasing capital. I'm sure you could, if you talk about operations, you'll be talking about all of this. What have you mentioned? What haven't you mentioned that was about fixing operations that we haven't talked about?
For operations, I think there's something that people miss in most operations. That is the customer feedback. Customer feedback in terms of operation. Most people don't have customer feedback mechanism. They just drop a box at the center of your office or wherever. It says suggestion box. How many of them read it? You don't. But if you have an outbound customer feedback mechanism to know how your customer is feeling, how do you make them become loyal and your marketers? That's what is important. So when I say that we need to fix operations, I've already spoken on all the other things, so I don't want to ramble. So I'll just say add customer interface mechanism there.
Your central argument has been around we're building pitch managers. We're producing pitch managers, but not business builders.
Yes. I believe in that strongly because, I'll give you the same example that I put on my LinkedIn post. The Abokis, that's the ones that are selling spares and stuff like that. Have you seen any of them just come and fix up spares? They come, they go under their elder brother or their cousins or whoever for 3 years and stuff like that.
And the Abokis, they're still, actually, you have them here in Sierra Leone, or is it just in Nigeria?
They have, I'm using them as example, but if you come to Sierra Leone here, the guys that are selling spare parts.
It's the same way, the same parts.
It's the same structure that they're doing. Most of them that come, the Lebanese do the same thing again. The Fullers, they do the same thing. The Indians, they do the same thing. What happens? They come, they go under one of them. They train them how to sell, how to do this, how to do that. Everything for 3 years. And they are satisfied that these people have learned the trade. They've known the ins and outs of business to do the same business. And after that, they will say, okay, now I bless you. You can set up something. And when they set up, they don't leave their bosses. They'll come back again to learn more. And if they have issues, they are the ones that will come to help them continue running the business properly. It's happening.
They still maintain the relationship.
They still maintain the relationship. For the Lebanese, they still maintain the relationship. For the Indians, they still maintain the relationship. but us Sierra Leoneans, we don't have. So for them, it looks like a succession plan. Most of them, you see their kids, as early as they are, they will be selling in the shop. They are learning them the same trade. But for us, we want our kids to become lawyers, doctors, whatever. But you're doing poultry. And when you're dead, the poultry is dead.
Apprenticeship. So we're producing, but let's go back to pitch managers again, from a general point of view. The focus at this point in time has not to be to teach people how to pitch, but to teach them how to build businesses. But who should teach them? Because whoever is doing these pitch competitions have not built businesses themselves.
I agree with you.
If they haven't built businesses themselves, how can you teach somebody to build business except a literature of something that you read from a book? I have something here that is the Startup Owner's Manual.
I agree with you, but what I think they should do is the funds that they are coming to give to these pitch managers. Sorry, I'm using it.
Yeah, pitch managers, go ahead. I can allow you to do that.
The funds that they're using for these pitch managers, if they can just take some portion of it and run an apprenticeship program. So let's say Joe Abbas knows about internet business and stuff like that. Okay, you want to you've done your pitch, you're good at internet business. Go as an apprentice to Joe Abbas. We will pay your apprenticeship tenure and cost. Go and learn.
We'll pay your salary for this. Even if it's a year, if it's 18 months, we're going to pay for you 18 months to study this business.
Exactly. You study. And the clause will be there. If there is no certificate to show that you have gone through the process and have qualified, you're not going to become that, you're not going to get that money to do the business. If we can just tweak our minds a little bit from setting up an apprenticeship for and if you see 90 to 100%, 90 to 95% of the businesses have already been done in Sierra Leone. So you coming should try to go through someone that has already become successful
in that business.
Have been in the business. Even if the person have failed in the business, it's also good for them to teach you.
So we should stop spending money to teach people how to pitch. But spend money on teaching people how to do business. I'll give you a clear example where we had a guy who developed, a gadget that was supposed to help you recharge your meter through your phone.
Okay.
So that you have money, and I want to recharge my meter, particularly for organizations that have multi-stations.
Yes.
If I have 16 stations that I power, I have to go there, you have to go there and top up each of the meters from the location. So you've been trying to design something. And imagine what happened. This guy spent a year working on, you were talking about product design. He'd already designed the product.
Yes.
And so all he needed to do was to say 3-4 steps. It was only later, after 9 months, he discovered that he should have spent all his life working between a mobile money company, which he started, AfriCell and Mobile Money, and EDSA to test this.
Exactly.
Because you're talking about mobile money and you're talking about EDSA meters and all the complications that are there.
Yes.
He should have spent his time building that and not be talking about, how to pitch, how to design this in a pitch competition. That comes at the end. Yes. And after 9 months, we discovered we should have actually spent time working with this guy. Nothing after, except it's been validated with this company, the mobile company and EDSA guaranteed that, yes, we've tested it. And EDSA gives you a live meter.
Yes.
Where, a sandbox.
Yeah, a sandbox.
Yes, a sandbox. Exactly. They give you a sandbox where you test it. And that's all he should have spent his time doing and not worry about, how to go pitch for this.
How to go pitch for it. So, like I remember we had a discussion the last time wherein you have idea pitching and you have business expansion pitching. So with those two, I think business expansion pitching makes sense because the person has
you're already in the business, so it's something that's gone.
Like
okay,
so
I agree.
Makes sense.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But an idea pitching is it's good. Some people succeed because they have their parents backing that sustains them.
I like the difference you've just
You
done.
have the parents backing to sustain them. Like Mark Zuckerberg has his parents backing. I don't want to call names here, but some of the ladies that are doing very well in their different field of studies right now in their businesses, they have their parents backing them. Who do you have?
So therefore, you divided the pitch into two. Pitch
Yes.
for an existing business because you want to raise capital to
That's
go.
fantastic.
But idea pitching, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's what you're saying is the issue. But now let's go rapid fire. Rapid fire questions. Now, you talked about the Abokis in Nigeria and apprenticeship.
Yes.
And the central argument, you say, producing pitch managers, we've gone through that. Has anyone pushed back on you since you've been talking about these pitch managers? Has anyone pushed back
No.
for you saying it?
No. I remember the last conversation we had. The person was justifying the reason for him pitching, and it's important that at times before talking, listen. If you are listening to reflect, it's better. But if you're listening
to
because
defend.
you want to defend, then you're missing the point. I didn't say that people will not succeed if you pitch and get the money. There are a lot of people that have succeeded. But the amount of people that have failed because they didn't go through apprenticeship is way, way, way more.
They should spend a lot more time learning how to do the business they are pitching for.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time, anyway, that's a journey we'll continue. Let's go. Another one. You say investors fund proof, not potential.
Yes.
Give me rapid fire.
Okay. Investors fund proof. How? When they come to your business, the questions they'll ask: how many customers do you have? What's your track record? What's your revenue that you've generated? Do you understand? So those are the things they see, and they ask, who are your target customers? Where you have the you have to know whether you have more customers to cover, or this is your finite customer base. So those are the things investors look for. They will try to see that, oh, this person knows what he's doing because he knows that I'm making money. I can grow this money, and this is where I'm going to sustain the money from. If you can give an investor those three reasons, it's easier for them to invest.
And even if, don't call it an idea stage because they're trying to do a problem solution fit or product market fit.
Yeah.
You stand a much stronger chance, you're saying, if we already have evidence that you have tried this.
Exactly.
And it's working.
Yes.
So you could spend a lot more time testing the product, getting results in the market.
Exactly.
And when you're pitching, that's the result you go pitch.
Perfect. Yes.
Because you're pitching from a result. You're pitching from things that you've already validated.
Yes.
So that you're saying investors fund the proof. So I said it's the proof. And a lot of early stage businesses in Sierra Leone don't have proof. And they are genuinely at the start. How do you build proof when you have nothing? Question for you now.
So basically what I see most businesses, they are being run from the pocket of the entrepreneur. They're being run from the pocket of the entrepreneur. So most of them don't have financial statement to show what's going on.
Okay. So if I'm funding from my pocket, what should I do?
You track it.
Document.
You document it. Every bit of loans that goes out, you document, because those are the references to show that from my funding, I have spent $2,000, $20,000, $30,000 from my funds. And they'll say, how? You take out your spreadsheet to show them how you spent that money. So they know that this person is documenting his expenditure.
Interesting. Proof. Document proof from day one.
Yes.
And the distinction you've just drawn into, when you're pitching a proof is always completely different than when you're just pitching an idea.
An idea, yes. Because for an idea, everything is potential. For an idea, everything is potential. This is my target audience. This is from the target audience. This is my likely people that will buy my product. All is projection. But now that if I want to talk about my business, I'll tell you who are my target customers. How many of them have already taken my product? What is my growth? How much have I spent? Why? Because it's already tested in the market.
You said you wrote in this article, you said you're no longer chasing funding. You're building businesses that deserve to be funded.
Yes.
What does a business that deserves funding actually look like from the inside, not the pitch deck and actual? So you may have talked about this, but if you could just draw the line under that.
Now the structure is there. A business, what people look at is they see growth. People see growth in businesses, and a business that has been existing for 10 years, 5 years, continuing. You understand? And that growth in the business, it shows. But if your business is failing, it also shows. You don't need a soothsayer for you to determine whether the business is failing or not. As long as the business is growing, people will see it.
And I've heard a saying that the best fundraising
is proof.
Is sales. This is what it says.
Yes. You say the first best fundraising is sales.
It's sales.
Okay, that's a new one.
It's Paul Skiller, my company chairman. Company chairman.
Of course,
he said the best fundraising is sales, and what he said was proving you sell.
Yes,
and there's growth and trajectory.
Exactly.
So at whatever level you are, even if you're starting from day one, sell.
Yes.
Sell.
Yes.
Sell.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of your eyes looking for growth, that the next level of growth, it's really for the money that's coming in. Grow with what you have.
Yes.
Grow with what the business generates. I've seen a situation where, like I said, I've had this instance where somebody comes to me, the last 2 years, the average revenue they generated is $27,000 every year, annual. 1 year was 36, the other year was 37 or whatever the figure was then, but it was an average of $27,000. And funding itself from its operations, the company grew in 3 years, 8 months to $520,000 top line revenue with no capital injection.
You're fine.
With no capital injection. It was selling, it was proving, and it was plowing back whatever it was generating, building a base where it has reliable suppliers who are ready to give it 30, 45 days credit.
Okay.
And then now sell when they pay, it goes back.
Okay.
So it's able to deliver maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jobs.
Exactly.
Without the capital to fund, because he has already built his relationships.
Okay, so this knowledge that you just shared will entice investors. That knowledge will entice investors. So he doesn't need to look for it.
because you know it's a business that's growing naturally from what it
yes, organically the business is growing. So it's easy.
So where are you going? Mr. Janga? What's the future? We talked about the past, we talked about the present, the future. Where are you going?
The future for us right now is to see how best we'll become the best in the market and go to other countries, which we've already started discussion with. That's the future. We want to put Sierra Leone in the map of, like you see the money point and stuff like that they're growing. We have the capability to be there.
That's smart systems.
Yes. That's smart systems. And because I'm part and parcel of smart systems, when I talk, it's what we are looking at for the future.
How many products does smart systems have in the company?
Three products.
What are those products?
We have the digital medical payment. We have the agency banking network, and then we have the wallet, which is smart payment and stuff like that. Yeah.
Tell me about the medical payments.
Do we have to?
Is it well body?
Yes.
I went to an optics,
yes.
Yes, and I saw. They say you get well body. There's a card.
Yes.
Is it an insurance? Is it an insurance store?
It's not an insurance card. We provide it also for institutions, and they load the card just like a prepaid card, and then they will go to those institutions and then get medical service. So we have taken the burden of you going there. They start calling the insurance company to know what's your limit,
what's your balance, and all that stuff.
We've taken that off. We've taken reconciliation from the HR and the hospital, because everything is reconciled at that point. We've taken, I'll sell here.
Well, yeah, that's part of why you're here. That's part of why you're here. But it's again, so it's smart systems.
Yes. So we've taken all those burden from both the hospital, the institutions. We've taken all those burden, digitized everything. And we have the EMI, which is the electronic medical record system, which digitize from when the receptionist at the hospital sees you up to when you go to either the pharmacy or the laboratory department to do your test.
Now, what I think we can do, we can also get a part 2. And what we could do is just to break them down, these products and what difference is making in this country, and how do you get to think of such ideas and how they are built. That is what I'd like. That's what I'd like for us to do with part 2.
No problem.
Well, Mustapha, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they do it?
They can call
email. What's email? What's the email?
They can call Mustapha at Smart Systems with the S at the back .sl. Mustapha at smartsystems.sl. Or you can call my number. But
you want to release your number in public, but reach out online. So Smart Systems, check out Smart Systems online. But it's a very pleasant time I've had talking with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much
for joining us today on the show. Now, before we call, maybe let's have this. But before I get Mustapha to leave, I want to just close again as I would normally do and reaching out to you. We shake you up. Young entrepreneurs, like I said, stop calling yourself CEO, and I meant it in a positive way, because unless you've apprenticed, and I'm for youth. Of course, you guys know me. I'm for youth activities. I'm for youth wherever they are. I believe in young people. That's what's running in my vein. I sleep and breathe it. Once you begin to call yourself CEO and it goes into your brain, there's something that is assumed at that level that you don't have. And once you begin to think you have it already, it means you're limiting your ability to reach out, to grow. Pull back from setting yourself in business. I talk to people who are, people who are, they're gifted.
Yeah.
And all they need to do, and there's also the risk. You work with people, and they take advantage of you.
Yeah, sure.
They work with people and they take advantage of you. But what you don't know and what you should know is that in every one of those relationships, we still learn.
Sure.
There's something you still learn. I have a young man who came to me, and why he came to me was because somebody had taken advantage of him. And we turned to that gentleman. It changed his life completely. In a space of how many years we built a $700,000 top line business from this young man that was taken advantage of. You cannot stop trying, but you have to work around people who can help you advance your dream. And you have to pay the price to apprenticeship. You have to serve people. I served Paul Skiller, founder Call to Business. I served Paul Skiller for, how many years have I served Paul Skiller? For 15 years. And, and I got shares in all of the businesses that I was involved in setting up. Yeah. But under that umbrella, I can't talk about the massive things I've learned in, ACTB, ACTB and the entire thing, the setting up of the bank, ACTB Bank, and all the companies that were set up. I was involved in setting them up, to Chicken Town, to Colat Brick, to, Frontline Chicken, initial shareholders in all of those businesses. Apprenticeship. It's, you can have 2% in a $3 billion business. You can have 3% and $3 billion. It makes all the difference than you having 100% of, even if it's 100,000, I don't know what 100,000 is. So please take this very seriously. Apprenticeship. Otherwise you would suffer. You would never be able to go to the level you need to go. I don't even need to talk about my years in AfriCell, 20 years of in AfriCell. You don't want to know how much I have learned. Grow on my marketing skills, and everything I've learned was in that corporate structure. And it's interesting to see how what I'm learning in AfriCell, I'm using in all those other business ventures. I'm growing because I'm learning, and I'm working in somebody's business. I'm building my own businesses. That's what's supposed to happen. So please find somebody who knows what to do, somebody who's done what you're trying to do. Work for them. Serve them. Because That's how you build your capacity to now have somebody to serve you. But serve. And maybe I'm a bit agitated. I shall share this, but it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a heart that wants to see you succeed. Coming from a heart that wants to see you grow. That's my ranting for today. But wishing you all the best that you can in life on behalf of our sponsors. I can't wrap up this unless you talk about it. Maybe I'll have a special show on the recent announcement that was made that made me managing director for Sierra Leone. Wow. I want to say thanks to the management team, Shadi, who is the MD for AFCOM, and the management team for this great privilege to serve as the managing director for Sierra Leone. And by extension, again, this message today is by extension, an extension of my apprenticeship. Yes. It's an extension of my apprenticeship. I'm using all the things that I've learned in all of this business to advance that. But at the same time as advancing that, I am building stuff around me, around myself. Things that I do. I have businesses. I have shares in companies. And I'm building those businesses as I am serving. So the two could go together. I'm serving and I'm building. I'm serving and building. And I hope, like I said, I will say more about Sierra Leone and that project and the determination I have. Obviously, thanks to Sierra Leone, thanks to every one of you. I'll do a show to just run through the feedback we got from the public and my commitment and determination to make sure that's another new level of my story, what we will build together. On behalf of, again, AfriCell, our sponsors, AfriCell, AfriMoney, RC Bank, and Sierra Leone, and the Startup Body Shop. I'd like to say, stay glued to this stuff. If you have any comments, please post them down. On our YouTube chat, we receive your comments and they become part of what we will do. But keep fighting, keep building, because we believe this is a life that can be shaped. This is a life that you can design, personally and as a business. Stay blessed.
This is the JB Show, and it's your life by design.